So earlier this year, when I was putting together this new studio, I knew I needed to upgrade my interface, which was a Focusrite Liquid Sapphire 56. Because number one, it was getting pretty old, and number two, Focusrite stopped updating the drivers for it, which basically made it obsolete if I ever wanted to upgrade my Mac, which I did. So it was time to move on. And the big three things I knew I wanted in my next setup were 16 microphone inputs, zero latency monitoring with effects, and rock solid stability. And all the research I was doing kept leading me to RME. And once I kind of wrapped my mind around their full product line, I knew I wanted to test out the UFX III, which is their flagship interface, along with the 12 mic, which combined creates what I would consider to be the ultimate drum recording system. And I've been using it here for the past few months, so let me show you how it works and what it's all about. The UFX III is RME's flagship interface, which connects via USB and gives you a mind-boggling 94 channels of I/O. On the front, you get 4 combo XLR inputs, 2 headphone outputs, MIDI in and out, a USB slot for standalone recording, and a display for full control of the interface directly from the front panel. On the back, you have 8-line inputs, 8-line outputs, and every digital connection you would ever need, including MADI, which is unique. More on that later. The 12 mic is their newest microphone preamp, which gives you 12 mic inputs in a 1U rack space, along with a headphone output and another display that gives you full control directly from the front panel. On the back, you have all your digital connections to link up with the interface, but the two you'll most likely use are the ADAT and the MADI ports. So let's talk about the way I have these set up, because it's a split setup, which I've never done before, but it makes a lot of sense and it works pretty well. So over at the desk, I have the UFX III, which is connected to the computer, and that makes sense because that's the main battle station where I do all the mixing and editing. That's really the heart of the studio. So the UFX stays over there, but over here to the left, I have a little side rack with the 12 mic in it. So I can just take all the drum microphones and plug them directly in right here, and I have full tactile control within arm's reach of everything I need to control. And I also have a headphone output here so I can monitor everything. So just having this kind of split setup really makes a lot of sense. It's just efficient and it works. Now, the way I have this 12 mic connected to the UFX is with MADI. And this is a new format for me. So if you don't know what this is, MADI stands for Multi-Channel Audio Digital Interface. And it's basically just a way to send digital audio through a cable to another device. Now, most every other interface I've ever seen uses ADAT, which you may be familiar with. But MADI is really like ADAT on steroids, because MADI can transfer 64 channels of audio over a single cable, very long distances, like 100 meters or more. Whereas ADAT, I just learned this recently, is really only designed to go like 16 feet or so, which is very limiting. So if you're trying to split your interface and your preamp up, maybe across a room or across multiple rooms, MADI is definitely the way to go. So out of the back of the 12 mic, I'm running 2 25-foot coaxial cables all the way over to the UFX III to link them up, and now they're functioning as one unit. That's pretty much all you need to do, is just connect them with however long of a coaxial cable you need. And the crazy thing about MADI is that if you feel like you're too limited with 12 mics here, you can expand this up to 60 mic inputs by stacking 5 of these 12 mics together, and all that can transfer over to the interface, and that would give you 64 total mic inputs, which is just absolutely insane. But if you ever need that kind of flexibility, it's sitting there waiting for you. Now, in terms of usability, this thing is very easy to control. You have the big knob here, which controls the headphone output. You have a mute switch right there. This controls what's being routed to the headphones. And then this takes you back to the main display. And you get some signal level here. So that's my vocal microphone on number 1 there. If If I tap the drums, you'll see the other signals coming in. And you also have some LEDs above each channel giving you some feedback on the signal level. So that's kind of nice to have that feedback there. And if you want to control any of these microphones, you just select the button above it and you can see it changes there. So now I can turn the phantom power on and off. I can turn on auto set, which automatically limits the gain if it's too hot. I can flip the polarity if I need to. Then I can go back here. If I need to adjust the gain, I just use the big knob to turn the gain up and down. Very easy. And another cool feature is if you hit this button here, it isolates this microphone in the headphones, so you can really hear what just that particular mic is doing. And then when you deselect it, it goes back to the full mix. I think that's a very cool feature. And another cool feature is if you want to put it to sleep, you just hold the big button down for about 3 seconds, and that puts it to sleep. And then if you want to wake it back up, you just hold it down for another 3 seconds, and it comes back to life, and it remembers all your settings, so you don't have to reconfigure everything. It's just always there, ready to go. So it's great. All right, now let's get into the software, because this is an extremely important component of the whole system. Now, RME is kind of known for building really stable software and stable drivers. And the more serious you get about your work, the more important that becomes, because the last thing you want to be dealing with is your interface not connecting to the computer or disconnecting randomly, or the software glitching out on you. All that kind of stuff can really mess up your flow. So RME focuses on stability, and I love that. Now, when you get an interface like the UFX III here, it's going to come with TotalMix effects, and this is their zero latency mixer that controls all the routing in your studio. So up here at the top, these are the 16 microphone inputs. The first 4 are at the desk here, and the other 12 are coming from the 12 mic. And down here at the bottom, these are the different outputs. So the big idea with TotalMix is you can route any input to any output, and every output can have its own independent mix. So if I select these different outputs here, like the main outs, which are the speakers, and my top headphone here, these are linked together and they have their own mix. And then I can have a different mix for the bottom headphone here, and I have a different mix going to the 12 mic. So really all you do is you just select the output and you just send whatever inputs you want to that output. So it may seem kind of intimidating, but once you wrap your mind around it, it's extremely logical and it's actually very simple to use, but it's extremely flexible. You can pretty much route anything you can imagine to go anywhere else you would ever need it to. So that's kind of the power of TotalMix. Now, another cool feature in TotalMix are the built-in effects, and these are zero latency effects for your headphone monitoring. So on every channel here, you have an EQ and a compressor. So if we activate the EQ, just to give you an example of how these work, like I could do a low cut up to about 500 or so. So this is what it would sound like if I just cut out all the low end. Or I could do a boost here in the high end if I wanted to add a lot of treble. So that's what that would sound like. Or I could cut that down if I wanted to make it really muddy. So this is just a little example of what these effects look like while you're using them. And this is just a 3-band EQ, so it's very simple, but it's functional and it works. And if we go to the compressor here, we can activate the compressor, and I can turn down the threshold. And once you start to get compression, you get some feedback here to let you know how much. And let's say I could do some makeup gain. So this is what it would sound like if I just have some basic compression on here. I could turn that off, turn it back on. So they're very simple EQ and compression, but they're functional and they work. Now over here to the right, you have the reverb, and the echo section. So the way you work with these is you send to them with this fader here. So now I'm sending over to the effects section. So now you should be hearing some reverb on my voice right now. And I can also activate the echo like this. So now you should be hearing both the reverb and the echo. I could turn that back off, go back to just the reverb, and you control it with this send level right here. So really you have 4 effects here. You got EQ, compression, reverb, and echo. And that's pretty much all you need to create a comfortable headphone mix while you're tracking or practicing or whatever you need to do. And they're just always here, ready to go. You're never going to run out of DSP power or anything like that. It's just all optimized to be efficient and to just work. So that's the built-in effects in TotalMix. Another cool thing you can do with TotalMix is you can use it on an iPad with the TotalMix Remote app. So this just connects to the UFX through an IP address, and once it's linked up, you have full control over TotalMix right from here. And it's very responsive. There's basically no lag at all. And it's designed exactly the same as the main version, so it all looks and functions exactly the same way. But this gives you the freedom to move around the studio and have full control over everything without being locked to your computer. So TotalMix Remote app, very cool, very handy when you need it. Another really cool piece of software that RME gives you is what they call DigiCheck, and this is their metering software. Now, I didn't expect to fall in love with this little app as much as I have, but now that I've had it for a while, I really can't imagine going back to not having it. It's kind of become essential to me at this point. But the way I have this set up is I have all the audio from the computer being fed into these meters. So here in TotalMix, I have the DigiCheck output, and I have all the mic inputs along with the computer audio being routed full blast over into here. So if we isolate this here, one thing you'll notice is that it's dynamically resizable, which is awesome. Very easy to kind of configure the window size to what you want it to be. And these are the 3 modules that I like to keep full time. So over on the left, this is a loudness meter. Up here, this is a vector audio scope, and down here, this is a spectral analyzer. But really, inside here, you have 10 different metering types that you can select from. So all these little windows, you can select whatever kind of meter you want for each one, and they're all high resolution. They give you really detailed information on all kinds of stuff. So it's more information than you'd probably ever need, but it's really cool to kind of go through here and just mess with different things and see what you like. But the 3 that I've settled on are these 3 here. But just having this full time up in the corner while you're mixing or mastering or doing anything, just to get a visual cue of what's going on with the audio, is extremely valuable. So if you get one of these interfaces, you should definitely download DigiCheck. I think you'll dig it quite a bit. And the last app I want to show you real quick is the remote control for the 12 mic. And this one is unique because it actually runs inside a web browser. Now, the way you set this up is you have to connect a USB cable from the 12 mic to your computer. So I have a 25-foot USB cable running from the 12 mic over to here. But once you have that connected, you just go to this web address here and it pulls up this application. So now I have full control over the 12 mic right from here. So I could rename all the mic inputs if I want to, turn phantom power on and off, change the gain. And this is also where you set up all your routing for the MADI and your headphone outputs. So it's a pretty deep application, but you can do it all right from here. Now, one thing I would like to see from RME in the future is if this could somehow be incorporated into TotalMix effects so you don't have to have two separate applications. It's not a huge deal, but I think it'd be really slick if all this was able to be done within TotalMix. Not sure if that's technically feasible or not, but I think that would be really cool. But this remote control app is really good if you're in a studio situation where you have maybe a control room and a live room that are separate, and you have the 12 mic in the live room, but you're at the main control desk and you want to control the 12 mic from a different room. This is the application you would use for that. You just need a USB cable to connect them. So that's the 12 mic remote controller. All right, now let's talk about this ARC USB remote controller. So this is a little accessory you can get to control TotalMix without having to use the software. It gives you some tactile control down here on the desk, which is handy. And this thing is built like a tank. It's solid metal, and it just has a USB cable coming out the back here, which connects into the back of the UFX. And it's pretty much plug and play. Like, you just plug it in and it works. So just to give you an idea here, with the main volume control, you can see I'm controlling the headphones up and down. And I have this button set up to switch between the main outs and the headphones. So if I hit that, now I'm controlling the volume of the main outs there. And I can go back to my headphones. And this here is just a mute switch, so I can quickly mute everything. This is a dim switch here, which just takes the main outs down a little bit. And up at the top here, you have 8 different snapshots. Now, I don't really use these that much. I pretty much only use the first snapshot, but if you wanted to, you could store up to 8 different configurations of this TotalMix window. And you can see these 8 snapshots over here. So right now I'm in number 1, but if I wanted to, I could have a completely different one in number 2, and you could go all the way through here and have 8 different setups for your TotalMix window. But this gives you a very simple way to remember your settings for different kinds of situations, and a very quick and easy way to just switch in between them. So that's the different snapshots there. Now, another thing that's really cool about this is all these buttons are configurable. So inside TotalMix, if you go into Options, ARC, and Key Command Settings, you have the ARC USB settings here, and these are your 15 different buttons here, and all these can be changed to any of these parameters here, which is a very exhaustive list of things you can choose from. So it's pretty much up to your imagination on what you want all these different buttons to control. And you can also control what the button does, so the button behavior. So it's a very deep system. You can pretty much create any kind of control you want to with all these different settings here. But to configure this, you just do it inside these ARC settings in TotalMix. So that's the rundown on the ARC USB. It's a great little accessory. If you're going to get one of these interfaces, I don't see why you wouldn't pick one of these up to go with it, because it's extremely convenient, it's functional, and it's just a great little accessory to have. So that's the ARC USB. So as you can see, this is a very powerful system that has pretty much everything you need to get great recordings with as little friction as possible between the quality, the flexibility, and the stability you get with this kind of system. It's pretty tough to beat. Now, this is definitely not a budget system. I'm fully aware of that. The UFX is $31.99 and the 12 mic is $29.99. So together you're looking at about $6,200, which is very painful, but all high-end audio gear is expensive. So if you want the cream of the crop though, this is pretty much it. So if you want to learn more about these, I'll have them linked in the description to Sweetwater, and those are affiliate links. So if you decide to purchase these someday, definitely utilize those links and I'll get a small commission. So thank you very much. But that's going to do it for this review. Hopefully it was informative, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.